of service in the ministry, and he retired being bishop, having led a number of our districts in the Eastern Cape, where his guidance has been of major help in the life of the Methodist Church. He has authored 8 books, which have for us been valuable tools in reading and gleaning from that experience of 42 years. He has also been a preacher, but also a presenter and invited guest to radio stations like Umhlobo Wenene and True FM. Rev A Mbete, like many who come, or I should say, like a brave few who come from that era, is a veteran struggle person, also a detainee for some time, around the 1985 state of emergency and things like that, because of the fight for the liberation of this country and Africa in general. But Rev A Mbete has also been a champion for liberation theology, and has studied not only here in South Africa, but also abroad. I first thought it's my eyes that went shut, and then I saw what happened. He has also been, if I were to read all the things that Rev A Mbete has done, it would keep me here for well over another 10 minutes. But also, we invited him here for his passion in liturgy, his passion in hymnody, and working with music. You know those preachers who, when the choir sings and you can hear that they are singing like whatever. He's one of those who would say, no, stop, stop, stop. This is how you must do it. Then you just hear the house erupt in music, because he has that ear that says, this is how we make this thing work. So, he is a father to many of us, obviously with his family and so on. It took us some heart palpitations. Those who were with us at the writing retreat will know there were a couple of times where I almost had to be admitted because I thought my heart was going to come up my chest with UNISA bureaucracy. But we ultimately, and if I were to tell you when or which day this was, we ultimately managed to get him here in the nick of time. When you hear there's one seat being held, now phone these 5 UNISA signatories. We're holding this seat for the next 20 minutes. Find these people. And by the way, for those who are not at UNISA, it's not that you're phoning them on their cell phones. You're phoning them through a system that connects them somehow. God being God, we are here today. And that thank you for graciously agreeing to be with us. It was meant to be for just today. Because of seats being held, he now only will be leaving tomorrow. Please also say thank you to Rev A Mbete for giving you the 2 days visa for us. The Reverend A Mbete.
Well, where I come from, I'm spotted people standing when I step. All right. Good morning, colleagues. It is such a pleasure and a privilege to be in your midst on a subject that I love. And mine would be to say some few things and hopefully we'll engage each other after we have listened to the professor, who is our guest as well. Indeed, Usfiso tried me until the last minute, and my family persuaded me because I was like fed up with this so-called bureaucracy. So when he phoned the last time and said, my mama will kill me now, and I thought, what happened? He said, no, we'll only be home on Saturday. And I thought, and I said to him, as long as I'll be at my family or relatives' birthday at 1 o'clock. So he still has to make sure that I go back to Islam before 1 o'clock tomorrow. It's such a joy to see him and also to see Ulirato. Ulirato I last saw when she was still a baby. And now I hear something called doctor. It's also good to see the other colleagues. I chose for my reflection under your big theme, and I said, colonial hymns and black spirituals, are they a burden or a blessing in the context of the government of national unity? In my language, it's Xhosa. A distinction is made between a song, iculo, which can be described as a school song, sung with notes, and ingoma, which is traditional singing that has no notes but brings harmony. And there's something else called amakwitjo. The amakwitjo are more like war or struggle songs. Amakwitjo arise in the context of danger, and they are sung to drive out fear and instill courage. So in the presence of danger, or we want courage, often it is this last one called equity that energizes us. And so like a workshop here, I'll be singing some few things, and I hope some of you can sing as illustrations. I must say hello to those who are online. These days I don't even know what line it is. But Molweni hapo nikhoyo. At the height of the apartheid plan to separate nations into Bantustans, we are now talking 1960s. I was still very young. And so at that height, King Victor Poto Ndamase in Pondoland was harassed by the paramount chief Kaiser Matanzima, who was pro-Bantustan. Bantustan is like what they called homeland. So just before the policy called homeland, so Matanzima was like this Pretoria chap who was pro. So as King Damase entered Mthatha, facing various false charges, Amampondo conveyed their feelings. Amampondo who were accompanying the king, and they sang something like now this is a song that is composed anonymously at the heat of the struggle, but it conveys the feelings. So Upoto King Poto has come back to Mthatha, and then the rhetoric says, hey, you Pondos, accept punishment. But the song does not finish there. The cream comes later. Then they say, Azimfun umaspate, Azimfun umaspate, Emambodo fuman umaspate. Now, I am a schoolboy. I was trained. They don't sing like me, the traditional, but the words are the same. I said, we don't want it. We don't want independence. But then, Emambodo fuman umaspate. That's an illustration of what I call equation, which captures the mood and expresses this feeling. Move on. Because that context was in the 1960s. In around 1985, I was a minister in Port Elizabeth, probably at the age of 33 or so. And I was coming from first time in a biggish city. And here I was in the midst of the struggle as a young priest. And basically that what pushed me to the front until I was detained. There was another beautiful picture. Something like Tambo. Now you can imagine when you get to a stadium and you are in the company of the priest like Obusak and Desmond Tutu, you are a young priest, you are going to bury the cradle of 4. Now at college, we were trained to bury old people who have died. Who walk in front. But here now you are in the field and you have this huge crowd that is angry. 4 activists have been killed. And then they burst to say, this year, Tambo, release us. Oh, Nalonyaka. And you begin to believe it. That, indeed, we're getting freedom this year. Utozamile Bota is still alive, was a political leader. He said to us, just stretch your hand, freedom is around this corner. And we believed him. Now, when you are 32 or 33, you are fearless. In one of my sermons, I said, hey, P.W. Bota, come here, we need to talk. And they said, who was that? But I was empowered, given courage by what was sung. So a major part of this gathering, according to the invite, is to investigate, analyze, and give a critical reflection on hymns and music composed in churches during the era of colonialism. There is no doubt that the pioneer missionaries and the first layer of African ministers trained by the pioneers produced a liturgy and hymns whose shape and content was Christian but European. The church hymns and songs were and continue to be sung in the Western tempo and styles. As I said, I grew up in the Sunday school, and I grew up at school, and I am not ashamed to say that I am a missionarized African. I woke up this morning from where I was, and in my head there is a tune of a hymn that says, now, but in my head I was singing this inside me until I realized, hey, this is the tune for the anthem of England. I was saying, just really so there was this English person who looked at me and I was humming it. She thought I was for the Queen or for the Queen. But I'm a damaged good of the missionaries. So, for the purpose of our seminar today, allow me to briefly look at a hymn that was composed by the Reverend Tiosoga in the late 1800s. Tiosoga was Presbyterian. He was the first African minister to be trained in Scotland. On his arrival from abroad, he saw a depressed, war-ridden, and broken nation, suffering from the effects of what we call down there non-housing, cattle killing, and war. In that context, Soga wrote, Lizali Sidinga Lakho. In that context, this is after 1857. Strangely or curiously enough, this is the hymn that was used by the Reverend E.J. Mkobuli in 1912 when he opened the ANC gathering in Bloemfontein. And this hymn has stuck with us until now. I was once chaplain of the Eastern Cape ANC, and we sang this hymn. I believe Lizali Sidinga Lakho has taken a meaning that is beyond itself. I don't think Tiosoga had what we had in mind. Why has this hymn lasted for so long? In singing, fulfill thy promise. What kind of promise did God make to who and when? Was the promise fulfilled in 1994? What then do we do with this hymn after liberation? Do hymns and spirituals have a date of expiry? In the car, I was telling Lerato that actually this Lizali Sidinga Lakho that Methodist sing was doctored. I can't say that at the Methodist conference. It was doctored. When you look at the original hymn that Soga composed, the last verse, which Methodist joined, instead of 5 we have, of 6 we have 5. And the last doctoring was, according to Soga, he was saying towards the end, he was saying, Lord, give us justice in this land. It's not there, because Methodists were more like evangelists for the soul. But I think Soga was calling for justice. And so this hymn, we don't even know now what tune was used, because Africans can sing one hymn in 5 different ways. We don't even know whether it was or any other one. I think Bukoyo of this, the late Koyo of this young commercial guys who sing, gave it another beat. But the point is, what is this destination called? Itinga is promise. When CEO Soga said, fulfill thy promise, what was he referring to? And when we sing under Ramaphosa now, for God to fulfill the promise, what are we doing? A few years ago, with the black majority government in power, the song of Lusanda Mcinga, because as theologians, we could not locate the struggle. During our time, it was easy. We knew that our liberation theology is move us from Egypt into the wilderness. You guys are struggling to locate the struggle theologically, and therefore you are not helping the country. And so, Ulusanda is a singer, came up and said, then she says, Habanye bayangane, habanye bamile, habanye bayawela. She's saying, the struggle now before GNU is at the river bank called Jordan. We are asking for God to help us cross the Jordan. We are standing. But some, curiously enough, are already across. I once preached a year or two ago in a funeral, and the ANC guys were not happy, and I was saying, we don't know which boat was used to cross the river Jordan.
Oh my God.
But we can see that there are people who are eating across the river. And when we look at their mouths, they are not eating what we are eating in the wilderness. But that is reality. So Ulusanda, until now, has located the struggle with a hymn of spiritual and put our journey on the river Jordan. So, hymns and spirituals help to narrate the relationship of God with the struggling community. They are not just for singing. They help to narrate the relationship between God and the struggling community. According to Mcinga, as I say, we have crossed the wilderness, but we are stuck on the banks of the river Jordan. As an old cadre of the people's struggle, or as old cadres of the people's struggle die and are buried. I was looking at Gordon. People are from the old struggle are dying now. And then I listen to the hymns and the songs. Then they will sing something like, in this context, Hamba kahle mkhonto. We don't even know which mkhonto now. Mkhonto wesizwe. Hamba kahle mkhonto. Then there's the touchy one. Thina lamabhulu sizowabulala onke lamabhulu. Now Ramaphosa this side is trying to say there's no Bulu, there's no Mtomyama, we are in a government of national unity. But the spiritual is saying, Thina lamabhulu sizawabulala. I go back to what I said. Is there an expiry date for spiritual or hymns? When I sit alone, and I think, would it not be nice for the veterans of the struggle, apart from church hymns, to sing at my graveside when I die one day? Comrade Bishop Ozohale Moko. I love that one. Ekutalo Sabalaza. Ekutalo Sabalaza. That's very good for. But is it appropriate at this moment? Can we say, so to the less privileged, hymns and songs are the language of the unheard. These hymns are sung as a protest to the circumstances of the oppressed masses. I look every day when I conduct a service at the poor people in the Eastern Cape. Eastern Cape got delicious. They usually gather on Sundays and sing. There's a hymn which has this last verse. The last one says, which means there will come a day when the promises will be fulfilled and you too shall find rest. Is this a necessary illusion? So we shoot it off, or do we continue to sing? In the context of a struggle, what is won is judged by what is possible. In the context of a struggle, what is won is judged by what is possible. From this perspective, the victories are generally considered. Under normal circumstances, there's always a moment in political struggles where faith helps to endure pain. The composers of the colonial hymns, spirituals, and liberation songs believed in who they were and what they could be. Madiba was still alive and respected when he went to the Eastern Cape to preach peace. We were in this East London town hall, city hall. And after sitting down, and we all like were saying, okay. Then someone from the gallery, somebody sang a touching song that asked, who killed Chris? We were as part of the platform. We were embarrassed. We called the mess, got into this big thing. Here was our, what do we call him, saint, giving us this message of reconciliation and peace. But in the belly of the haters, they are asking a serious question. If you say we must have peace, how do we have peace when we don't even know who killed Chris Hani?
Sure.
So I was fascinated when I looked during this GNU negotiations. I saw Sufi with another T-shirt, "Don't kill Chris Hani again." That is not for me now as a theologian to theologize. But that is where the location of the struggle is. It is this location that is asking for direction. The last 30 years of democracy has taught us that freedom from captivity is not enough. It is what happens afterwards that counts. The problem on the surface are of a physical nature, but underlining everything else is the spiritual state of things. From where I stand, the people of Mzansi are the people now with no vision, no enthusiasm, no energy. When the focus of life for the nation changes to desire, accumulation of wealth and corruption, the spiritual temperature goes down. I did a memorial service for the wife to Sobukwe a few years ago in Harvard. And then, as we were drinking tea, Dada Umlambo of the PAC comes to me and says, "Bishop, I was touched by your sermon." And he said something more. He says, "Do you know what? In the early 1980s, there was a delegation of all the liberation movements in South Africa. And there was SACC led by Mfundisi Dr. Manas Butelis. This is the old case, Dr. Manas Butelis. And this SACC delegation said to us, 1980, in Zambia, give us the vision of a let the church be the custodian. And then cut your mission statements and your political stance as political leaders. And he said to me, we refused, and I regret to, because we have lost the vision. And now we are losing political power. There's no vision. So, your institution must continue to let us get engaged. Not here at your premises. University setups can, as you said, can make people get fears. Take it to the ground. Let us find a way to organize seminars in the provinces or regions. And let us host it in church buildings. Come down from the tower. Walk with us on the ground. And we ask about these hymns and rituals. But more than that, let us locate where these institutions and the church, where they can help. As I draw towards the end, I want to say, one day I watched on BBC, on TV, a documentary entitled, "What is in the Bag and Other Royal Secrets." They were talking about the late Queen's bag. She always got it like. So the thing was, what is in the bag? And all other royal secrets. So there was this royal expert called Raymond. He was interviewed. Then he said something important. He said, no, we don't know. We do not touch the bag. We don't know what is in the bag. We never touch the bag. But what we know is that the Queen can send to the staff up to 23 signals by simply positioning her handbag in a particular way. But we don't know what is in the bag, but we are trained to read minimum 23 signals by how she positions that bag. She said, for example, if the Queen puts her bag on the table during a meal, it meant she was ready to leave in the next 5 minutes. Ladies will forgive me here. Reminded us about an incident. There was a guy called Idi Amin of Uganda. Now, Idi was in England, and there was this banquet. And Idi, with his English, was defending democracy in Uganda. He said, "Ma'am, Uganda is a democratic state. We hold elections every 5 years. And even next year, we're going to have another election." And the Queen, yeah. So there was a lot more to the royal handbag, just to be for acceptance of things or carrying things. I think, therefore, an institution like this one, before I go home, I must tell you that when the name UNISA comes, it's like a royal bag. You need to position your royal bag and teach us on the ground what you mean. I moved up and down here and I saw 150 years. I don't know where that was. That's a long time. When I come here, I remember Professor Maiman. Yes. There were other professors and we were tender and young. You know how they helped us in the late 70s and early 80s? From this university, they produced journals. They were theological journals. We were young ministers. We could read what our big brothers, no sisters, what our big brothers were thinking. And then some of us who were young were encouraged to write little things. And they would publish them on the journals. What is in the royal bag? Do not become selfish. The institutions that you are in are not for you. They are meant to link with the ground. And I'm saying the ground at the present moment needs your attention. For South Africa to sing its songs again, theologians and spiritual leaders must send spiritual signals of self-awareness to the nation again. Hymns and songs are usually linked to a process called ukutwasa. Hymns and songs, they are processed to ukutwasa, meaning ukutwasa is to blossom, to break through. We cannot allow this country to die while we are still alive. We need amatwasa to help us move the nation forward again through songs and spirituals. It was during the moment of self-awareness, okutwasa, that the young Enoch Sontonga, who was below 35 years, wrote, Nkosi, sikelele Africa, maluphaka muphondo lwayo. God bless Africa, maluphaka muphondo lwayo. Those were not classroom compositions. They were compositions from the ground. Hey, thank you very much, and I hope to join the conversation.
Before we go to the conversations, we are going to open just a few moments for some questions, comments, and yes, so that we can engage data on this. And then, yes, indeed, much later, there will be the open discussion where we include and wrap up things together. But I'm going to open this time for us to engage with any questions that anybody wishes to ask or comments out of what Wesley Mbete has said. I'm out of words. Anybody with anything that they wish to, I will send this mic around and ask that you please speak into the microphone so that we capture what is going on for those who are not able to be with us on the right-hand side.
very much, Program Director, and Mr. Mbete, thank you so much that we knew that this is what we were going to get, and you didn't disappoint us. One of the things that you spoke about was the fact that songs were used as an encouragement, as hope-giving. But we also know that so many times songs are used also, and we are told that are used also sometimes can be used as lullabies, where in many instances we are told that, bear it all, it's okay. And don't fret, don't worry. I'm thinking of some of the hymns, for instance, in 3:15. Anyway, it says, when people are burning and saying, how can we be together in this GNU, for instance, and then you sing it and you say, let's do it together. What was the role of songs then as lullabies during, especially the struggle, and how can we change and position that use to fit the present context where people shouldn't just be seen to be acceptors of the status quo, but as people then challenging the status quo to be different and to address them differently. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Rev. Shall we take another hand? Yes, sir.
Thank you. This table we think alike, no? I was here around that thinking, let's say, colonial hymns as a pacifier to our struggles. It's fine. In our church, we have a hymn. Dr. Mabafana would know. It's just to pacify us, waiting for death and there's riches in heaven, type of situation. And aligning myself with my brother then.
Are we good?
Thank you very much for such a beautiful paper. By the way, my name is Wesley Guild from the Department of Philosophy, Critical and Systematic Theology. And I'm here for selfish reasons, which is that I'm here to learn so that I can have a paper to write. There's so much that I've just learned from that. So to explain what I mean, I'm a student of Professor Takatsumu Fekeng, and one of the things that he says is that the culture is one of the areas of salient Christological reflection. So, in other words, you are unable to answer the question, Jesus' question, who do you say that I am, if you are unaware of where you are situated and what your culture is, and you also are unable to answer the anthropological question, which is, who am I, how can I be liberated to my authentic self? And there's quite a bit from what has been said, which I find to be so fascinating, and I know that this probably was supposed to be only to Reverend Mbete, the comments and the questions, but I can also cite an example from my own tradition. In the 60s, there was a group that came out that was called the Memorandum Group. I'm Seventh-day Adventist, by the way. And so there was very clear racial inequality in the church, and so Nkopotsetiro took on the work of actually ensuring that this racial inequality is called out. And there there was a group that came in opposition to the memorandum group. It was called, I believe it's the Hamba group, and it was based on the song Hamba Nhliziyo Yami Siye Ezulwini Ngoba kukhona apha emhlabeni. So I think that it's a very important thing that not only do we look at the liberative potential of songs, but we also look at the colonial potential of music. Thank you very much.
I don't know if, or maybe let's take the one more. I was going to say maybe wait for the next one, but
Thank you for the opportunity. I'm standing as, in a way, trying to represent women, because I see that no women are actually standing up to ask questions, and I don't like that. And I don't think that men should actually ever welcome that when women don't speak. Yeah. But Mfundisi, ndifuna ukulanda phaa kulaa ndawo ubuthetha ngayo ngoChris Hani. He's saying that when the masses stood up and started to question and say, we want to know who killed Chris Hani. And then you said it was not for you to theologize the killing of Chris Hani. My question is very simple. Why not? Why not? Because we are here discussing the role that colonial hymns had in the liberation struggle, in pacifying black people in the time of struggle. Thank you.
I think I'm going to ask you, Tata, to come this side so that.
Okay, why not fight?
Okay, as Tata comes up, then you'll be able to then get that question.
Okay, thank you very much. It was this person who said that these people, I don't understand them really. They are angry, they sing. They are happy, they sing. It's something that was very confusing. It leads me to this question as to whether really songs incite people to do what they mean. Previous, I was coming to this question of Amakwin song. When people sing them, can they really do action? Do they propel incite them to do action for what they mean? As well as these other ones of the pacified people. Can they take from them and be pacified? Or they're just singing just for the sake of singing? Angry sing, happy sing, they don't have real any meaning.
All right. Thank you very much. There's no doubt, as you said, that almost all the hymns that we sing in the church are colonial in nature, their context. And they reflect a particular understanding of Scripture. They are based on Scripture. That is why they last for so long. Take the hymn I mentioned, that Lizali sitting alako. That hymn, for those who sing it, is based on the wilderness walk towards what was called the Promised Land. But you are saying, what does that help? What in terms of action? It depends now on the pilgrim and how they are taught theologically. If a person sings that verse of another programmatic hymn Jerusalem, Netanyahu. That Jerusalem, if you listen to Gogo and the village people, in these colonial long hymns, like 7 verses or 5, they pick on one piece of it. You cannot fault them when they come to that one in a struggle that said, Singandida kumbisana, inkungu nokufa, sendiboni kanan. What we miss then is to stop them, to say, which Canaan are you talking about? Because they've got their little Canaans. And the Umfundisi and theological cannot stop them from, because theology is not just done from UNISA or from what we call FEDSAM or Sesmokitim. Every pilgrim has got the right to theologize. So I look at them. As someone who deals with hymns in the Methodist Church, I look at the congregation when they sing and look at their reaction. I do not know up till now who taught them that the most important line in the Tidiam Siaktumisa is the last one, where they say, Mandingaze, ditembe wena, Mandingaze ndidaniswe. Some choirs or congregation even repeat that 6 times. Yes. And I said, no, we are taking this thing out of context. Who said this is important? And what does it mean? Theology. So, they become a lullaby to the extent that they were written in a context where there was an attempt to separate spirituality from what is called politics. And it is for this generation, we tried during our generation to bridge the gap between what was sacred and what was secular. And this was why we were accused that we were communist. By the way, that was the reason I did not go to England and America for further studies. I went to Asia. My principals were not happy. And I said, no. England and America have given us problems. They can't give us solutions. I'm going to a continent that is less than 10% Christian. And I'm going to the Chinese, to the Koreans and others who have no record of oppressing us. And then, what is the solution? There's a place called Moyplas in East London. Around 2001, there was a detainee who was coming from Rev A Island after a long time, an elderly father, Mbete. And Utatu Mbete, there I was to open and bless this moment. Then, towards the end, his daughter stands up and says to me, Bishop, write our own Bible. Hey, nobody has ever said that to me before that. She said, I can see that you are jumping. He said, you know the stories about Daniel who get into lions and Meshach who get into fires. That is people's history written in the context of a God talk. She said, our great-grandchildren will never know what the struggle was about. because you are failing us from interpreting this people's struggle into a God language. It still haunts me as I get older. And Lomtana says to me, as we were coming in, Dada, is there something wrong from reopening the canon of scripture? They said, hey, when I go away. the canon is closed. Or was closed. And she said, but we've got issues that are not included. So, for these colonial hymns not to be lullabies, we need to find a way of writing our own Bible. What does that mean? Interpreting the people's struggles in the language of divinity. Most of us are victims of growing up in the church, and so these colonial hymns are seated. When I was at Paris for about 3 years or so, I loved, did not even look at the meaning of it. As when we were at the graveside, when the choir would sing, Na Gimomang. And then there was this chorus towards the end. I could see the New Jerusalem. They've got power, dangerous power.
Yeah.
But the point is, you can't destroy that without replacing it with something else. The poor are hanging on against all odds. When they are disappointed as they are by politicians, they go back and hang on that God one day would intervene. So we need to do that. Towards the end, I wrote, when I was saying, I moved myself and said, well, that's not for me to theologize now about Amabula Lucresa. I think when people say to me, why did the church move away from the struggle? I said, as I was young